Well, just a little bit here to go on the End Zone 2, presented by OCH Sports Medicine Services. We've asked for some viewer questions. We got a couple of good ones. We'll start with you, John. We know that State-Ole Miss is a big rivalry, but Ole Miss LSU is a big rivalry. So as a player, which means more, a win over LSU or Mississippi State?
Well, I think they're both very important games. When I was playing at Ole Miss, our coach, Billy Brewer, he hated both schools. They were both part of our goals at the beginning of the year was to win the SEC and to beat Mississippi State and beat LSU. But I think it has a lot to do with what part of the country you grew up in, living in Mississippi. You're in North Mississippi, of course, it makes it a lot easier. If you beat Mississippi State throughout the year, you had friends that went to Mississippi State. But you know, for those people that were back around when Billy Cannon was beating Ole Miss with the punt return, I think that still is a very important game for the Ole Miss fans.
Freddie, the next question is for you. Alabama, only 3 losses right now, but you know they could end up with 4 or 5. We don't know yet. But is 4 losses considered a failure for Nick Saban in Alabama?
No way. With the talent that you're faced with when you're coming into with a new team, new offense, new scheme, you come in, you just try to break 500. If Coach Saban and the gang were to lose against Mississippi State, Auburn, and I think there's another team in between, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It takes time in a Division I program to set up your offense, your defense, and the type of players that you want to play in your scheme. But it probably won't happen.
All right, Matt, I don't want you to feel left out, so I'll ask you a question just off the top of my head. What means more to you, a win over Alabama or a win over Ole Miss?
Wow, that is a good question. You know, being a guy that grew up in Alabama, every time we played Alabama or Auburn, it was extremely meaningful. And I would have to say, you know, for me personally, I always wanted to beat Alabama. And I was talking about, I happened to be one of the fortunate ones that was at Mississippi State during the time when my class, we actually beat Alabama 3 out of 4 years in there, and beat Auburn the same 3 out of 4. So I would have to put Alabama at the top of that list. Sorry about that, John.
All right, let's get to some picks. Matt, we'll start with you. Who's winning this weekend?
I've got Mississippi State, of course, beating Alabama by 1 point. I think State's defense is going to find a way to hold Alabama to 3 touchdowns and a couple of field goals, 28-27.
All right, Freddie, who you got?
I have Alabama, very physical contest, but I think the Tide will dominate this game.
Dominate
this game, really.
All right, John?
I think it's going to be an ugly game, defensive struggle. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I'm going to pick, I think Mississippi State's had this game circled for a long time. I'm going to pick Mississippi State in a close one, 20-17.
All right, let's bring Steve and Anthony back into it. Guys, what are your feelings on the game this weekend? Steve, we'll start with you.
John says ugly. I love a defensive game much more than I love a 40-38 game. And I think that's the kind of games Mississippi State and Alabama often play because they are, as I said earlier, a war. I just hope the officials don't determine the outcome of this game. Let them play Mississippi State by 3.
All right, Anthony, quickly, who you got?
Certainly. I think it'll be a very close ball game. State's defensive and offensive lines will be the key. State wins very, very close one.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us this weekend. We have one more to go. That's coming up in 2 weeks. We'll talk about the Egg Bowl and the Iron Bowl. For all of us, we'll see you.